So readers lead, we're told. Is that true? Well, you have to be a reader to find out. I do recall a while back I listened to a sermon by Dr. Mensa Otabil, and he said something to the effect that those who read actually demonstrate a sense of responsibility, because when you read, essentially what you're saying is that the author of that book has some information that you need to make your life better or to improve a certain area of your life, whether it's business, whether it's relationship, whether it's politics, and so on and so forth. So I was just going through my stuff today, and I was thinking, what can I leave to my children as an inheritance? It's like, voila, look at them books. But on a serious note, I wanted to do the video for young entrepreneurs so that you recognize the fact that a lot of the deficits that we have in terms of the education that we have received in our schools, all of the bad education we receive in our schools can be compensated for your own sense of curiosity, your hunger for information and knowledge. I've been reading, I love reading, I'm not trying to impress you with this array of books because these are really not impressive. There are people with much more impressive library than this, but I want to share with you so that you also pick up the habit of reading, because when you read, your mind is sharp. Your mind is always agile. It's sharp. You become witty. You are more responsive to questions. It allows you to think more critically, and that's a mark of an entrepreneur. You need to think on your feet, because sometimes when you look at situations, you ought to be able to tell whether this is a market gap that you'll be able to provide some value propositions for. That's thinking on your feet. But you need to read to have a more wider perspective, to understand how various things work, how markets work. And you have to read across. It's not just business. It's not just self-help. You have to read politics. You have to read philosophy. You have to read history. You have to read anthropology and so on and so forth. So I have been reading quite a bit. This is the classic genre. I had to categorize my books into classic genres: business, self-help, religious, politics and military strategy, wisdom and oriental, writings, other non-academic but sort of academic text, for example, cash flow control. Pretty, exciting journey has been. Emotional Intelligence, one of the first book I read. Lovely book. You need to check it out. Daniel Goleman. It was a really seminal book in understanding that emotional intelligence is a more compelling factor in determining success than intelligent quotient. Now that was shocking. That was really shocking, because the craze about IQ was like, and all of a sudden we have emotional intelligence. It's really a good book. You need to look it up. How to Win Friends and Influence People. Dale Carnegie. These are some of the books that, if you haven't read these books, it's like you haven't watched the movie Titanic. Funny thing, I haven't even seen that movie. Trump. This is a book. I read this book in 2000 and what? Was it 1990 something? This was the book after which I started the company called Quadrant 3 Properties. It was a property investment company. I botched it up. I failed. I exited the market quickly. I realized I wasn't fit for the market. I just had too many knowledge gaps. So I had to exit the market. But this book, it just opened my eyes to the value in the property market. It makes you understand all of the categories, the niches in the market: the property development, investment, rental brokerage, property management services. These are various niches in the market that sometimes you don't require a lot of paid up capital to start initially. And that's one of the things that young people do need to understand. You don't need billions of CDs to go into a certain market. You need to find the niches that you can enter the market with minimum capital. In Search of Excellence, lovely book. Lovely book. This book influenced strategic thinking. There are books that contribute to knowledge. This book changed the entire knowledge structure. The core essence was how some of the companies that had lasted over centuries, how they survived, the things that they focus on: structure, systems, values, leadership style, and so on and so forth. This is the book. This is real Thomas Peters and Waterman. Good book. Find it. Pretty classic. Kind of old, but I'm sure you might find it. Stephen Covey, In Search of Excellence. Oh, least said about this, the better. It's just awesome. It speaks of trust from a scientific perspective. When we think about trust, we think about that, touchy, feely, hazy, non-quantifiable type of, no. But trust, the way he makes trust in such a way that it becomes measurable within an organizational context. So it's a very profound book for managers and top executives who want to know how to maintain and build a culture that's, strongly, held and widely shared. This is the book for you. 48 Laws of Power. You mean you haven't read this book? Are you crazy? You haven't read the 48 Laws of... What? Whoa. Let me read a bit for you. The 48 Laws of Power. What's this law? Okay. So this book speaks about certain specific principles applicable across various arenas, whether it's politics, whether it's business, whether it's personal. For example, the law number 1, it says never outshine the master. Never outshine the... How difficult is that? When you go into a place, you're employed into a place, and your boss, you are more competent than your boss. You don't go into a meeting, start contradicting your boss. That's what it's talking about. And it speaks about reversal of the law, where you can outshine your master to your advantage. This is just awesome, man. This book is... Aristotle Onassis, the fabulous Onassis. Find this book, please. If you're an entrepreneur and if you've started a business, if you are running a business and want to scale, the mindset, this book was a Greek man. Dude could just walk into some Arabian palace and engage the... Oh man, awesome book. I think I read it. It was 1990 something. Awesome book. Aristotle Onassis, the Great Onassis, that's the title. TDJ is one of my great books. He Emotions, Even Strong Men Struggle. This book was, I think, was voted by the American Psychologists Association. Not voted, but it was what's the word? Is it validated? Yeah. Great book. It sort of explains the whole psyche and condition of the man. Traces the man's lineage and history and what men think, why they think, how they think. Great book. I think there was a CD to this book that I even had, forwarded by Max Lucado. Max Lucado? It's a good book. Very good book. Advise you get it. So these are all of the genres. This book, The Master Strategies, Power, Purpose, and Principle. I think the forward Bible was by Nelson Mandela. Forward by Nelson Mandela. You haven't read it? Are you kidding me? Go find this book. Very good book. Very, very good book. Dr. Cornel West. A friend of mine bought me this book, not too long ago, from the States. Democracy Matters. I love Cornel West. Great thinker. Remarkable public thinker, intellectual giant. Very good book as well. It makes you understand a whole lot about American democracy. Dreams for My Father, Barack Obama. World on Fire. I have been talking about this book for a long time. World on Fire. I remember Professor Mishua. I think she's a Yale School professor, and the book essentially talks about how American exporting democracies into geographical markets that have ethnic divisions. For example, in Rwanda, the Hutus and the Tutsis. Tutsis were minority, were more entrepreneurial, more economically advanced than the Hutus. But politically, the Hutus had the power. So you see how democracy is dangerous in that kind of context? I think that was the core argument that the professor was making. Very good book. Very good. The 33 Laws of Power. This is the second, not the second, but one of Robert Greene's book, The 33 Strategies of War. It's cast in the mold of the 48 Laws of Power. It's same format, same different principles, same format, and it's just remarkable. It categorizes all the principles into offensive strategy, defensive strategy, and oh, it's just a great book. Robert Greene. I'm told The Art of Seduction. I haven't read that book. I don't know why I haven't read that book. This is my general reference business book. If I want any topic on business to learn more about it, this is the book I go. The internet is great, but let's face it, Charlie, I'm the old school guy. I like to flip the pages and smell the paper, you know. So read. Don't stop. Read. Don't stop. These books I haven't read. I'm wondering why I haven't read this book. I bought this book and I kept it somewhere. Why would I even do that? Huh? Okay. This book, The 100 Great Kings and Queens and Rulers of the World. I haven't. I put all these here because these are the categories I haven't read. I need to read this. I think it has some sort of. It provides non-biblical reference for some of the biblically attested information that we have. You know, some of the kings of, say, the Babylonian Empire, Mesopotamia, and so on and so forth, and Greek, and other civilizations as well. So he takes every king, the year, and speaks about, all of the. This is Hadrian. Hadrian, I think, was Rome. Tacitus, one of the most fascinating historians who have ever lived, and so on and so forth and so on. Oh, great book. I need to read this. Okay, so I'm sure that will be on my list. Responsibility. This book. Why haven't I read this book? Man. And why is this here? I read this book. Yeah, this book's about... Ooh, this book, man. This book. Monetary Profits from the Monetary Crisis. Harry Brown. Awesome book. It traces the booms and busts of most of the economies around the world and how to position yourself, particularly when you're an actor in the investment market, in the stock market specifically. It's just a good book. I think it was a macroeconomist. Remarkable book. Loved it. I think I bought it when I was at First Atlantic. I remember anytime I was going to work, I used to sit in Trotro and I'll be reading it. Lovely book. So these are some of the books that I have read. I'm not sure I'm going to stop reading. Even on the day of my death, the obituary brochure, I'm sure I have one in my coffin so I can read. So, but in all of this, let me be truthful. In all of this, there's no book as more profound as this book. I mean, I have read a lot of books, but there's no book as profound as this book. I'll tell you why. No matter which book you read, it really doesn't make a difference until you read this book. Yeah. This book has changed my life, man. I'm telling you, I don't know how to even begin to explain it to you. It's changed my life from Genesis through to Matthew, through to Revelation. Truth of the matter is I haven't read all of it. I haven't. But I understand the gospel. And I'm still searching for some of the missing puzzles. In my life, not in the book. So read a lot, but I recommend you get this book as well. This is the New International Version. The red letter version with concordance. I like the ones with commentaries. It helps you to get context because when you're reading, you need to exegete the text. You don't just read for the sake of reading. You exegete the text. We have to understand the cultural context within which the text was placed, what it meant to the people with whom the author was communicating at the time. And you can't do this without the help of the Holy Spirit. So, good for you. Read.